Hello all, this is Al Finch. Today I am going to be bringing you a special format of my own creation. I'm going to be playing a game of Sylvion single-player chaos draft for Magic the Gathering. Some of you may be familiar with Magic the Gathering, some of you may be familiar with Sylvion. I'm going to be combining mechanics from both games in order to play something kind of, well, I hope, it turns out to be fun and unique. For those of you that are familiar with Magic the Gathering, you know that it's a trading card game where players can draft from these various booster packs in order to create decks in a limited environment. Sylvion is a enclosed game. Everything you need is coming in one box, but it has a unique system where you can draft cards for single player situations. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using the drafting rules from Sylvion to draft a single player deck. I'm going to be using that deck then to face off against a special solo deck that was created years ago during the first Theros block, the Thanagos Ascended Defeat a God deck. So in order to get started with this, what we'll need to do is take all of these booster packs that I've collected over the years. There are no repeats in this, by the way. I'm going to mix them up, and I am going to draw some packs out at random to draft with. All right, so I have placed all the various booster packs now in this bag to randomize them. Here's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to be using drafting rules from the Sylvion game. The Sylvion game says that we're going to be shuffling up 64 Sylvan cards. And so with the booster packs, most booster packs tend to come in packs of 15. There's a few exceptions. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw up 6 packs, which will get me close to that 64 card total. Then I'm going to fill out the rest of the missing cards with these evolving wilds. Why am I doing that? Now, I'm not anticipating a lot of synergy between the different colors and cards. This is a chaos draft, so all of the packs are different from different sets. And so I'm expecting to play a multicolor deck of some kind. And these evolving wilds, when I get them, they'll help me smooth out my mana problems if I'm having to play, say, a 3 or even 4 color deck because of my limited number of picks. We'll see if this makes a difference or not, but that's my plan. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw packs so I can get close to that 64 card total. All right, first pack, we have Final Fantasy. I guess we can't get away from universes beyond this day. It's a popular set, though. I'm excited to see what we've got inside there. All right, Edge of Eternities. 2 recent sets. Let's see if I end up with something a little bit older. Nope. Avatar. Okay, in with the new guard. Hopefully, we'll see something old. Ah, okay, Unstable. All right. Oh, March of the Machine. All right, one more. Foundations. Okay, so this is what I'm going to be playing with. I'm now going to pause for a moment so I can get these various cards unboosted and shuffled together so I can do the draft. All right, well, turns out I've actually got 83 cards once I've removed all the various tokens and art cards and stuff like that. So I'm well over the 64 card number that we were targeting. I'm not going to add in the evolving wilds, but I may end up bringing them into my deck if I feel like it's not going to work well. We'll see how that goes. We've got a bunch of fairly recent Magic sets here. So those recent Magic sets, they're going to probably have a fair amount of color fixing in them anyway. All right, so now that we've got all of our cards here, I'm going to shuffle this up, and then we're going to use the Sylvion rules to actually start a single player draft using some of the cards from the Sylvion box. All right, now that I've shuffled up my deck, I've got the Sylvion rules here and some cards from the Sylvion game. The cards that we have here are the edge cards, so there's 12 of those. They've created what we call a desertion deck. There are numbers on the other side of this deck that kind of determine which cards are lost in the draft as I go through it. There's 4 different steps during the drafting part of the Sylvion game. Summoning, recruitment, another summoning round, and then desertion. For summoning, we're going to reveal cards, 1 to 4, the Sylvion deck. Okay, this is our Sylvion deck, or Sylvan deck. We're going to place them next to each other to create 4 vertical columns. So our first 4 cards are revealed: a War-Trained Slasher, an Incinerating Blast, Black Mage's Rod, and a Rig for War. Then I'm going to choose a column. I get to take every card in that column. All right. So for this one, we have a single creature, a spell that will remove a creature from the board, a equipment that brings a creature into play, and then a combat buff. If these are the first things that I see, I'm going to probably want to get creatures early on, especially if they seem like they might be good ones. It's going to probably come down between the Black Mage's Rod and the War-Trained Slasher for me, mainly because this one's a 2-for-1. I get a creature plus an equipment. In the War-Trained Slasher, this is a creature that has evasion. Now, that's not actually all that important, unfortunately, when you're playing in a solo game. A lot of the solo decks that we have, the creatures don't block. So that's something else that I'm going to have to think about. However, it's got additional abilities here. It says when it attacks a battle, double its power. I'm not counting on there actually being more than 1 battle in this entire deck, since we only had 1 pack. So I'm not certain that this is a great card. I may end up favoring here the Black Mage's Rod for its versatility. This one deals a damage to each opponent. Again, not necessarily useful in the context of those solo decks. Ooh. All right. You know, I am playing Xanagos Ascended, where removing creatures is important. Incinerating Blast deals 6 damage to a creature, and then I can discard a card. If so, draw a card. It gives me some filtering, and it will eliminate a creature on the enemy side. Yeah, folks, basically you're listening to my stream of consciousness. I'm rethinking it. We might want to go with this creature removal instead. So I'm going to now recruit the Incinerating Blast to my deck. I might be potentially looking at a deck with some strong red in it. And now what we do is we summon again. So we add in another card to each column. This column now is smaller than the others because I've already chosen a card from it. All right, and now I don't get to recruit. Instead, what happens is something now deserts. I lose some of my options here from the table. So I flip this card up. All right, this has a number 3. What'll happen is now all of the cards that are in column 3 are going to be removed from the game. I won't be able to draft them for my deck. Now, what's going to happen now is we're going to repeat this cycle. I'm going to keep adding in cards and recruiting cards. Then at the end of each cycle, we're going to have cards leave. This will determine what cards I have access to build my deck. And there's a couple of ways that this ends. It could be when I run out of edge cards. Essentially, once we get to the bottom of this deck, I am done with the entire thing. Or if I run out of cards in this deck, and then I draw a desertion card that chooses an empty column. You'll see when we get to the end. But for now, I now have some more choices to make. So this is what I'm going to do. All right, so I started off with red. I still have some red options here. Getting that train slasher, still a good idea. We could start in white and get another creature as well. Another Avatar enthusiast, whenever another ally you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So I don't know, there's at least another ally here, but I don't know that I'm going to see a ton of those in this mixed deck. They may only really be prevalent in the Avatar booster pack. I've got a Thaumaton Torpedo over here, which allows me to destroy non-land permanents. And it works better if I have a spacecraft. There's not going to be too many of those, but it's still a usable card, and it's colorless. Rig for War gives my creature +3/+0 and first strike till end of turn. I'm very tempted by this column over here, as I'm already got a card in red, and a colorless card gives me some flexibility. This one might start locking me down earlier on into red-white. He is a decent-sized creature, but I'm gonna, keep my options open. So I am going to recruit Rig for War and the Thaumaton Torpedo. All right, now we're going to summon again. You may notice that we're getting down pretty close to the edge of my mat here. Once we have 4 cards, we can't add anything more to a column. We just end up skipping it. All right. So color fixing land here with Vigilance. I don't see any way of animating this. This must be from the Avatar set. I'm certain that there's some earthbending cards that may show up. Let's see. We have here a 2/2 flyer that transform incubator tokens. Not great because I'm not expecting to have a ton of those. Rebellious Captives. These will earthbend, so this might be fun to have in combination with the Rumble Arena later. We'll see if that's the case. 4/2, when the creature enters, exile up to 2 target cards from a graveyard. If at least 1 creature card was exiled, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. He's a 4/2, that's not bad. He's still got better stats, though. I'm thinking I might end up taking this column, even though I don't know that I'm going to get any cards that I'll be able to augment with it. We'll see. All right, so it's a tough choice, but I'm going to run with the biggest creature with an additional creature that might help me later. All right. Now we recruit again. Okay, and we see what we lose. Column 1. It works for me, gives me more choices. All right, time to recruit. Or actually summon, I guess. Okay, so we have a double-sided card that has appeared over here. It starts out as the blue Order of the Mirror. I can spend a white and 3, and that's Phyrexian mana, so I can pay life to do it, to transform this guy. It goes from a 2/1 up to a 3/3. When it becomes blocked by a creature, the creature gets -1/-1 till end of turn. Interesting, but not necessarily great, given that I've already got some commitment towards red. I don't really have a lot of options, though. Red Mage Rapier is not bad. I've already got some non-creature spells in here. It's in the same column with a creature kill spell. An enchanted creature gets -4/-4, and when it dies I get to surveil 2, so I've got some filtering with that. Very tempted by this column. This is a commander card, so not particularly useful in the format that we're playing today. This gives me some land filtering because of its ability of spending 2, tapping, drawing a card, discarding a card. Vigilance, he's be a good blocker. Yeah, I think we're going to focus maybe on the red-black if all goes well here, with some creature kill spells, and hopefully this will play to our strengths here. So I'm going to take this one. Alright, now we recruit again, or we summon again, and then we're going to lose something. Alright, 2. So, goodbye, everybody that's there. Alright, time to recruit, or actually summon. Here he's warcrafting. If I'm focusing on black and red here, this deals 5 damage to a creature, player, or battle. That's good. It's a non-creature spell, which goes with my rapier over here. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is excess damage dealt this way. You can exile one of those cards, put the rest on the bottom of your library. You may play the exile card this turn. That seems pretty strong. As tempting as it might be to go heavy into blue and white, since there's a lot showing on the board, I'm going to stick with my game plan and focus on red creature removal and black creature removal. Hopefully this won't lead me astray with later things. All right, recruit again, or I'd rather summon again. Getting rid of column 2, which I am fine with. Alright, let's summon. Alright. The board is really clogged with these blue and white cards that I don't want. Uncle Iroh seems like he might be a good choice, considering he has firebending, which will let me cast my non-creature spells. And it enables lessons. Did I pick up any lessons yet? I don't think so, but maybe we'll see some later. All right, yeah, I'm gonna stick with this card quality over quantity right now. All right, let us summon. What are we losing? All right, row 4, column 4, goodbye. All right, next. Can't place there, here. Okay. Again, nothing to really help me in these columns. With a billowing shriek mass. When this creature enters, mill 3 cards. At threshold, the creature gets +2/+1 as long as there are 7 more cards in my graveyard. Flying. Not great, not great. Looking at seeing maybe if I should splash another color. Do I want it to be blue or white? This one allows me to draw 2 cards. And if I pay an additional cost for a water bend, can draw 7 cards. It's interesting. We've also got Station Monitor. I'm not sure a 2-color thing is going to be useful here. I may only splash a single here. Double Pips is not great. Another 2-color card essentially over here, although it does play off of blue. 2 pips there. You know what? I am going to take this row. So this is a nice creature because it does weaken my enemy's creatures. He only costs blue to cast, and I don't have to commit to white to transform him. And I've got 2 other blues. One gives me the chance to draw cards. This one is a decent defender, and it can attack if an artifact comes through. I am playing non-creature spells. If I should go white, but I doubt it, this will create a whole bunch of white ally creature tokens. So, alright, you got me. I'm going to take a whole bunch of you and now kind of focus my attention on blue as well as black and red. I'm going to try and avoid getting into any of the other colors though. Alright, let's summon again. Steady-handed Mook. Insomnia Crown City. Airship Crash. Okay. He's Death Touch. And he assembles a contraption. The contraption's not going to be particularly useful. I set them aside. I'm going to, play the limited rules where I guess I can play with a tiny contraption deck if I want to. The 2 contraptions that I got were Buzz Buggy, where whenever I crank Buzz Buggy, a creature gets +2/+0 and trample. And the other one is whenever it's called a BB gun. Whenever you crank BB gun at the end of turn, this creature fights another target creature. Given that the Steady-handed Mook is a Death Touch creature, and I would have a good chance of playing BB gun with it, he might be worth drafting. I'm going to look over here, though. We have Fortune Teller in blue, which is something that I've just dipped into. That creates clue tokens. That helps me draw more cards and get the things I need. And we have a mana fixer here. The Insomnia Crown City enters tapped. It gives me white or black. If I get enough things that fix color, I might be able to play some of those weirdo white cards that I got after all. I'm still not enchanted with the stuff that I see over here. The Station Monitor is not a bad card because he's a 2/2 for 2, but the fact that he's gold makes him real hard to cast. Not great into the Billowing Shekel or Shriek Mass. Yeah, I am going to go with the Steady-handed Mook. Alright, such is the power of Death Touch and being able to get a creature off the board. Alright, let's summon again. And let's find out what we lose. Alright, column 4. Alright, summon. Alright. Obsidian Elder. 1/3. When the creature enters, I create a 0/1 Black Wizard creature token that says when I cast a non-creature spell, the token deals 1 damage to each opponent. Not great. Not real useful. Tap creatures with the Trusty Boomerang. We have mana fixing, a blue creature. I'm considering this column right here. Trusty Boomerang is yet another non-creature spell for the things that I have that care about that. Okay, let's summon. Alright, nothing too impressive came out that way. Shell Duo has Prowess, which admittedly is not bad with the non-creature spell thing, and it Surveils, which lets me filter. 3/4 is a pretty good body on that creature as well. Alright, yep. I'm going to go ahead and take that column. Alright, let's summon. Ugh. Where are my red and black cards, folks? Alright, Merchant of Many Hats. Well, it's reusable. I can spend 2 black and or 2 colorless and a black to return it from the graveyard to my hand, and he's an ally. Go with that. This one says reroute systems. A creature gains indestructible. The Chivalrous Chevalier is a cyborg knight that's 3/3 flies. When he enters the battlefield, I return a creature I control to my hand. Unless I compliment an opponent, that might actually be beneficial to return stuff. I don't know. I feel like Merchant may actually be more useful. Alright, Merchant of Many Hats. Add you to my deck. Alright, let's summon. And then see what we lose. Column 3. Cleared all those cards out that I wasn't willing to take, with the double pips and the gold color. Alright. Bring in, by no means, Zookeeper Meccan and Mountain. Yeah, not the kind of red that I need. I like this. He gives me mana, and I can make creatures bigger. Says it's only activate as a sorcery. Spend one red, 6 colorless. Target creature gets +4/+0 till end of turn. Not like I have to surprise my automaton. So I'm really liking the looks of that Zookeeper Meccan here. This guy, when the creature enters, destroy up to 1 other target creature. If the creature wasn't dealt damage, the controller draws 2 cards. It's actually not bad, given the fact that it doesn't really matter if they draw cards in the solo game. It still only gives me really 1 usable card. I'm not really focusing on white. Although white's going to be splashable. This one lets me remove counters from a permanent I control, create a 1/1 colorless gnome token, sacrifice an artifact, choose any kind of counter printed card refers to, then put it on target permanent. Interesting, but I'm not sure I've got a lot of stuff that deal with counters. Yeah, I want the mana accelerant. I'm going to get the Zookeeper Meccan. Alright. Let's go. What do we lose? 4 again. Alright. Summon up. Swiftwater Cliffs might actually be good, given that I'm going to be dabbling in blue here, probably. Yeah, I am going to go ahead and take that. Alright, summon up. Alright, and what do we lose? Column 1. Goodbye, everybody. Alright, we get... Oh, not there, there, and there. Ooh. I think I know which row I'm taking. So this is a vehicle that crews 2, which isn't great. It's 3 for a 3/2 when it's crewed. Whenever it attacks, I draw a card and discard a card. It's filtering, it's colorless, and it's a non-creature when I play it. It is going to work with what I've got. And this says, red spells cost 1 less to cast. Creatures control have haste. Also nice. Can spend 4 colorless and 2 red, tap, create a token that's a copy of target creature you control. Sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. Yeah, that's hard to pass up. So I'm going to take these two. All right. Let us summon. What do we lose? Column 2. All right. And summon. I've got a battle over here and a red creature. This may be worthwhile. The battle says Invasion of Olgrotha. When it enters the battlefield, deals 3 damage to any other target. You gain 3 life. Right there, that's useful because it'll help me get rid of creatures. On the flip side of it, if I can attack it and get rid of it, I'll get a 3/3. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, I put a +1/+1 counter on Grandmother Ravi Senjur, and I gain a life. That's a good card for this deck that I'm playing. It's a non-creature spell, so it plays with the prowess and other things that trigger off of that. And yep, this one says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, the Porcupine. All right, taking this column for sure. All right, let's stock it up. All right, what do we lose? Column 3. That's a shame. Although the Virus Beetle is not a big loss, filtering and drawing 2 cards with the Laughing Mad would have been nice. Okay. Let's see what we get here. Airship Engine Room and a Thief's Knife. The color fixing here might be nice. That lets me tap, sacrifice it, and spend 4 mana to draw a card. Thief's Knife. This gives me a creature. It is a job select card, and it says, equipped creature gets +1/+1. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. It's a rogue in addition to other types. Not great, because really not playing against another player, but what do we got over here? The first column, I've been kind of ignoring you. We've got some blue cards. This guy, Ingarun Eyes, 3/3, lets me scry 3 when it enters the battlefield, and when it dies, I draw 3 cards if 3 or more creatures died this turn. That's not bad. Preening Champion, when it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 blue and red elemental creature token. Also nice. Shambling Seath. Enters tapped. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you can pay black. If you do, return it in the graveyard to your hand. This looks like a winner over here. Alright. I'm going to take these, even though the Drix Fate Maker is not necessarily useful to me. Alright, this will be one more round of recruiting, I guess, or summoning. Amulets. Ooh, Tiny Bones. Treetop and Beast in Show. Alright, that amulet lets me sack a creature, draw a card, and put a counter on it. Sacrifice the artifact, each opponent loses life. Not great, but sacrificing creatures for counters is not bad. In this row, we have some mana fixing with the Secluded Courtyard. I think the Gladiolus Mesita. Somebody I'm sure in Final Fantasy really hates my pronunciation. Enters, search for a land card, put it on the battlefield tapped, shuffle. Land control enters. Oh, it's landfall. Another target creature gets +2 and trample till end of turn. He's a big, nasty creature, but I'm not really focusing on playing green. Could play him, though, potentially with some of the mana fixing stuff I've got. And then Tiny Bones, Bauble Burglar. Opponent discards a card, exile it from the graveyard with a stash counter. During your turn, you play cards you don't own with stash counters on them from exile. Not great, because the opponent I'm playing with isn't going to necessarily be discarding cards. I I'm going to go with the last column because it gives me that land and gives me a blue creature. The 5-finger discount's funny. Put target non-land permanent into your hand. May spend mana as though it were mana of any color the next time you cast this card. Interesting. Yeah, no, I don't think I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with these guys. Alright. We'll do a summon to Ranged Gildot. And Evolving Wilds. I didn't need to stock the deck after all. Merciless Repurposing. Let's see what we lose. Column 1. And that's a shame because those were colorless. Could have put them in my deck if I needed them. But, alright. Last one after this. Ooh. A nice big ol' colorless creature. Sire of 7 Deaths. First strike, vigilance, menace, trample, reach, lifelink, ward, pay 7 life. Alright, it's a 7/7 for 7. It is really hard to turn down. What do you have to offer me? Exile a creature, so it's a creature kill, incubate 3. It's a 2 for 1, but yeah, this guy, first strike in lifelink, I think that's going to make it worth it. I hope I can reach that amount of mana before I get wiped out in my solo game. It's only one more from this one. Yeah, I want to play with the Sire of 7 Deaths. Okay, folks, I am done drafting. I'm going to assemble my deck. And next you see me, I'll be set up to play a game with it. Alright, now you can see my deck as I'm going to be playing it here. I did discover in the last round that I had made some ineligible picks. So I did penalize myself slightly when building the deck. In Sylvion, when you reveal that last card for getting rid of one of the rows, you actually end the drafting session right there. So that means that the Sire of 7 Deaths was not a legal card for me to take, so I did not include it in my deck. I also noticed in a rewatch of my video footage that I skipped one of the reveals, so I should have had one less set of cards actually drafted beyond this. I went ahead and subtracted it from the end. I ended up losing the Thief's Knife, the Airship Engine Room, and the Beast in Show selection that I made as well. Beast in Show doesn't matter much because I wasn't playing with that color, but Airship Engine Room and Thief's Knife would have been included in my deck had I been able to draft them. But as it stands, they are not going to be a part of it. What is a part of it? Well, we have 3 artifact cards, 9 red cards, 5 black, 7 blue. I went ahead and cut myself a little bit of slack by saying that the 2 contraptions that I got in my 1-pack of, what is it, unhinged, unglued, whatever the unset was that I just pulled from are eligible, so I can have them if I manage to get my 1 steady-handed mook out. So a little bit of that. Also, I've added in 4 swamp, 4 island, 8 mountain, and then these 2 potentially multicolored lands. My deck's going to heavily favor red. We've got a bunch of double pips in here requiring the heavy red commitment. So I went a little heavier on that, and hopefully I'll get a decent draw and not be locked out of my other 2 colors. So my game plan is pretty much as I mentioned during drafting. Hopefully cast decent number of non-creature spells to get some synergies from my cards. Otherwise, I've got a fair number of creatures which I'll be using to attack and bring down the creatures in the opposing deck. All right, upon the return, I am going to be showing you the setup for the solo deck I'll be playing against. All right, so here we have the Journey into Nyx Defeat a God solo play deck. So this is a deck that players can play against that was released alongside the 2014, I believe, Wizards of the Coast Journey into Nyx Magic the Gathering set. This has a deck that contains a number of creatures that you have to battle. And the overall goal of this challenge is to get the god Xenagos to leave the battlefield. This can happen only if there are no revelers on the battlefield. So here's a copy of the god. When you play against this deck, you start out with Xenagos Ascended and two of his cards called Rollicking Throng. They're both creatures on the battlefield. Xenagos himself says he can't leave the battlefield as long as a Reveler is on the battlefield. All of the creatures in his deck, I believe, are typed Reveler. And when Xenagos Ascended leaves the battlefield, each player wins the game. He's got baseline stats of 6 power and 5 toughness. The two Revelers that he begins with are 1/3 Human Reveler, Rollicking Throng. When the Rollicking Throng enters the battlefield, reveal the top card of Xenagos' library, and Xenagos casts that card. This ability doesn't trigger as the game begins. So these will be starting on the battlefield. I've got to try and clear these things out before I can do anything to get that off the field itself. There's a bunch of special rules that come with this. Special rules for the player. I can start up to 3 different hero cards on the battlefield. So when this was released, if you attended the events, you could get these special cards that are hero cards. These mostly in this case were equipments that were released alongside this deck. Each of the equipments was interesting in that it had one set activity. In this example is Bow of the Hunter. And it says equipped creature has tap. This creature deals 2 damage to target creature or player, equipped 2. You notice there's a lot of blank space here. There were stickers that were released alongside these. And you could choose one of these extra abilities to add to one of these hero cards, should you want to do so. There's a lot of cool things that it adds in, things like double strike, or when it deals damage, untap 2 lands. I'm not going to do that this session. I've got a couple of other things I want to look at instead. So we have a lot of these equipments. I'm setting them aside. I'm not using them for my hero card. I am going to use just one hero card because it's a cool one. No, it's not this one, even though this one's cool. This one's called the Destined. It is not an equipment, but it says spells you cast that target a creature you control cost 2 less to cast. This would have worked really well with the, I believe, hero mechanic, or not the hero mechanic. There was a mechanic in the Theros block where if you targeted somebody, usually they would get some bonus. Not doing that. Instead, I'm going to use this one. This is the Champion. This is a hero that says, spend 2, tap, and exile the Champion. Search the library for a legendary artifact card that isn't a creature, reveal it, and put it on the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Now, I'm sure in this case, this dealt with one of the legendary equipments that belong to Elspeth in this particular set. As it turns out, though, I actually did draft a legendary artifact that isn't a creature that's in my deck. If you don't remember it from the drafting, you'll get to see it soon enough if all goes well. So this will be my champion on the field, or my hero on the field, the Champion. It says, I can attack Xenagos Ascended and his revelers directly with my creatures. This is a little vague. I think that this means that basically I can have my creatures fight them. That makes it a little tougher, right? I could just say, oh, I'm attacking them and they deal whatever damage and then nothing else happens. I think it's more interesting to play it where if I attack Xenagos, he gets to deal damage just as if he blocked that creature. So that's how I play the game using this deck. There may be a different interpretation, somebody else that plays this, but I'm going to assume that that means Xenagos can be fought by any of your creatures along with his revelers. So that's how I'm going to deal with that. And it says you may target Xenagos as though he were a player. So there are spells that directly affect players. I think I tried to avoid them because I was a little sketchy on whether or not they would be able to affect him. In any case, he can be targeted by things, I suppose, like life loss. Again, confusing. Like if I can make a player lose 3 life, maybe I can do 3 damage to him. That's kind of up in the air. Maybe I'll flip a coin if that ends up happening. Other special rules. Xenagos Ascended in 2 cards named Rollicking Throng began on the battlefield. Shuffle the rest of the deck. Done that. Beginning of the main phase each turn for Xenagos, you reveal the top 2 cards of his library and he casts those cards. So he's going to get 2 free cards out of his deck every turn. Those could be spells. Those could be creatures. Xenagos Ascended and Reveler creatures don't attack unless a card specifically says they do. So you might get some time where you get to rest between him attacking, and that's good because he's so big and beefy. You make the choice if Xenagos needs to make a decision. So, if I've got cards that say, oh, target opponent has to name or choose something, I get to do it for him. Ignore effects that would cause Xenagos to draw or discard cards or perform any other impossible actions. That was why I was not worried about getting things that make my opponent discard when I was drafting in this particular case. If one of Xenagos' permanents would move to any zone other than his library or graveyard, that card's put into Xenagos' graveyard. This can be helpful if you've got things like the equivalent of an unsummon or a boomerang or one of those spells that returns stuff to opponents' hands or the top of their deck. Instead, it just gets rid of them. I don't think I have any of those effects, but it's a good corner case to remember. All right, so that's the explanation of the deck that I'm going to be playing against. Now, let's actually get on with the game. All right, so here we are with our initial battlefield setup. I am going to go ahead and be honest with you folks. I did end up testing my deck a bit before we started rolling here and discovered that Xenagos packs such a punch that I need to make things a little easier on my deck. Now, this is still within the rules allowed by the Journey into Nyx Defeat a God deck. One of the modifications that we made is instead of having 2 Rollicking Throngs on the battlefield, I am only going to be starting Xenagos with 1. And you might recall I'm allowed to have up to 3 different hero cards in the battlefield, so I've added an additional one here. The champion, all right, I'm still choosing to keep in the game as well. And the Slayer, which came from an earlier set, but is still nevertheless a hero, helps me start the game with an additional 7 life. I have already drawn my cards here, so you didn't have to see me take any mulligans. And I'm going to take the first turn now. We'll see if I can still stand up to Xenagos Onslaught with these additional tweaks. First things first, I am going to drop a mountain for my first turn. I have no 1-drops, so I am going to have to wait to see what Xenagos now does on his first turn. All right, he draws a Serpent Dancer as Death Touch and is a 2/4. As a hero's reward, when the Serpent Dancer leaves the battlefield, each player draws a card. The game tries to reward you a bit, destroying all of these extra little minions out here, because if it didn't, Xenagos would still overrun you short order. All right, Impulsive Charge. At the beginning of combat this turn, all Revelers gain haste until end of turn and attack this combat if able. So this is essentially giving these guys haste, and they are going to attack me for 3 right off the bat. I am down to 24. All right, my turn. All right, turn 2. I'll play out a swamp, and I think I want to accelerate things a little bit here. So I'm going to put out this Zookeeper Mechan, a 1/3. He won't be able to do much of Xenagos attacks, but he could block the Rollicking Throng at least. And on the next turn, hopefully I'll be able to use him to generate some extra mana. Okay, Xenagos, what are you going to do on turn 2? Ecstatic Piper. When the Ecstatic Piper enters the battlefield, Xenagos Ascended attacks this turn if able. So I'm going to be taking 6, looks like. Plus anything else? No, it's just another Reveler. This one's a 4/4 called the Ferris Band Reveler. When they leave the battlefield, each player draws a card. All right, so none of the Revelers will attack me this turn, but Xenagos is, and I'm going to take 6. I'll be down to 18. You can see what I mean about him hitting hard, hitting early, and me needing to make some adjustments to see if I can even survive the early game. All right, my third turn, I'll untap, draw. We'll get another land into play. And goodness, this might be worthwhile. I have Nahiri's Warcrafting. No, I need another red. So does Uncle Iroh. The Steady-Handed Mook might be my best. Oh, I do have 2 red. Ooh, goodness. So many choices. Steady-Handed Mook might still be a good idea because he has Death Touch, but it would be nice. I was forgetting about the champion. I think that's what I need to do. All right. I am going to exile the champion. Search my library for a legendary artifact card that isn't a creature, reveal it, and put it on the battlefield. So putting that out of the way. And if you don't recall what I had earlier, the legendary artifact that I managed to draft that is not a creature is the Fire Crystal. Red spells I cast now cost 1 less to cast, and creatures I control have haste. Can spend 4 colorless and 2 red and tap it to create a token that's a copy of target creature I control, then sacrifice at the beginning of next end step. This will make it possible now for me to actually cast the Borcupine or Uncle Iroh. I think I might want to get the uncle out there just because he can take down one of these baddies for me. All right, let's cast Uncle Iroh. He's a 4/2 with firebending. When he attacks, he'll give me an additional red mana. It's not going to matter too much, I don't think. No, but he can take out a Rollicking Throng. So that's what I'm going to do. It didn't get me any benefits, but I didn't want him off the table just yet. I really need to build my board if I've got any chance of defeating Xenagos here. All right, but this does leave me wide open, and if he hits me, I'm just going to have to take it. All right, so what are your 2 cards, Xenagos? Dance of Panic. As long as there are 5 or more Revelers on the battlefield, they have haste and attack. We're not there yet, and they shouldn't be there unless something weird pops out of this deck I don't remember. And the Ecstatic Piper. It's this dude that makes Xenagos attack me. So I'm going to end up taking another 6 points of damage. All right, I'm down to 12. Can I stabilize on my next turn? I'll untap. I've got some good stuff on the field. Can I take care of something here? All right. Another black mana is always appreciated. I believe that I am going to use mana from the Zookeeper, the Mountain, to cast Nahiri's Warcrafting. This is going to do 5 damage to the biggest Reveler on the field, which is a 4/4. And this is going to now allow me to draw a card. Not only do I draw a card, but I look at the top X cards in my library, where X is the excess damage dealt this way. It's 1. I can exile that card and put the rest on the bottom of my library in a random order. You may play the exiled card this turn. Actually, the one that I drew probably should be the one that I look at. So this is the one that gets exiled. And then I draw a card off of the Ferris Band Revelers, actually going straight to my hand. All right, now that worked out well. I had already played my land, I believe, for the turn. So I'm not going to be worried about losing that. What I can do is play that Preening Champion now. Now, he's not too big. He's just a 2/2 with flying, which doesn't really matter in this game, but he does have haste. And he does bring a 1/1 chump blocker in with him. The 1/1 blue and red elemental creature token. I don't have a blue and red elemental creature token, so this red 1/1 elemental creature token will have to do. All right, now I should probably get a Reveler off the field here. Do I want Uncle Iroh to get rid of a Serpent Dancer? Probably. Better that than one of the Pipers. And the champion can attack, the preening champion can attack a Piper. And that keeps an elemental up, which will allow me to block the big guy. All right, we'll do that. I'm going to trade the Uncle for the Serpent Dancer. That'll draw me another card. I'm getting a big land block here. And then we'll trade the preening champion with one of the Pipers, which will bring me up to 14 life because of the bonus it gives me when it leaves play. All right, this is going a little bit better. Still, I don't like the fact that I don't have many creatures on the board here. All right, what 2 do you bring out? We've got Impulsive Destruction. Each player may sacrifice an artifact or enchantment. Impulsive Destruction deals 3 damage to each player who didn't sacrifice a permanent this way. I think I probably ought to get rid of the Zookeeper Mechan. Treat it like it just chump blocked for me. Yeah, all right. And then what's the other thing that you're going to do to me? Xanagos gains trample and attacks this turn if able. All right, it's not really worth blocking with the elemental, unfortunately. So I'm going to take 6 more damage. I am down to 8. Brutal, brutal, brutal. All right, can I get back on my feet? I know I can cast at least a couple of cards on my next turn here, if all goes well. All right, I draw. Kind of like the looks of this. All right, I'll play a land. So I've got a couple of swamps, a couple of islands. I have this thing that says failed conversion. Enchant creature gets -4/-4. If it dies, surveil 2. I don't know that I really wanna kill the Piper. Instead, I think it's gonna be better to weaken Xenagos because he keeps swatting me for 6. I'm gonna use up all of my mana just to cast this creature enchantment. And now he is a 2/1. That's a lot less threatening. All right. That's the best I think I can do for now. Back to you. All right, Xenagos, you are going to attack me this turn. But at a 2/1, I'm still got a decent amount of buffering here. And at the beginning of combat, all Revelers gain haste and attack 2. Should I take 6 to the face? Should I block 2 damage with a elemental? You know what? Yeah, I should. Let's not be dumb here. All right, elemental blocks 2 damage. I take 4. I'm down to 4. And these guys all swing at me. All right, untap. I don't feel great, but I feel okay. Let's see what I draw. I can just straight up destroy a non-land permanent with this later. I don't have enough mana just yet, but I can get there. I may be able to get everything out on the field, though, with that swamp that I just played. Okay. All right, so I am going to pay 1 and 2, 1 black, 2 colorless for that Steady-handed Mook. He has Death Touch, and when he enters the battlefield, I get a contraption. Here's my contraption deck. I'm going to shuffle them up, and we'll see what gets assembled over here. All right, the Buzz Buggy. All right, so what happens is at the beginning of my upkeep, if I control a contraption, I move the crank counter to your next sprocket and crank any number of sprocket contraptions. I'm going to put this on sprocket 1, and I'm going to start this on sprocket 3. It says here, start the game with the crank counter on sprocket 3. So that's where we're at. So on the next turn, what'll happen is a creature of mine is going to get +2/+0 and trample till end of turn. All right, Steady-handed Mook. We'll get that Borcupine out, and he has haste and 1 less cost. Oh, that thing cost me 1 less as well. I forgot. Oh, it's just red spells. Yeah, just red spells cost 1 less to cast. So that is correct. And we'll put out that Torpedo. That's a non-creature spell, so he gets a +1/+1 counter on him, which is wonderful, because that makes him a 3/3, which is big enough to take out the Ecstatic Piper without killing himself. So he's going to attack. I think I'm going to keep the Steady-handed Mook back just in case. We'll kill the Ecstatic Piper, gain 2 life, so I'm back up to 6. Okay, I'm feeling a little better about the game. All I've got left in my hand, though, is a land. But, hey, we'll see what happens here. All right, untap Xenagos and Piper. I'll draw first one. We get a Piper, so he's going to attack. And another Piper, so he's going to attack. I think I just want to take 2 because I don't have the ability to take him off the board. I want the Mook to take out a Piper. Okay. Untap. All right. 3 swamps. 2 of these. We draw. And go Rune Eyes. And I'm going to go ahead and put my Rumble Arena down. This is going to allow me to scry 1. It has Vigilance, which is funny because nothing's going to animate it, but Red Mage's Rapier, that's fine by me. We'll leave that for later, though. Do I want to create a token? I think I might do. Oh, crank it. So at the beginning of my upkeep, that thing goes there. Somebody's going to get +2/+0. Who do I want to get it? I don't think it matters. I'm going to give it to the Borcupine. So he's a 5/3 till end of turn and trample. Again, doesn't really matter. All right, but I am going to now create a token that's a copy. I'm going to copy the Mook. So what that's going to do is give me a second contraption, and that'll be all my contraptions, but I'll take it. I have to spend an extra mana here to make that red. So 2 red and then 4 colorless, creating a token of the Mook. This is going to be now on sprocket 2. I need to mark this in such a way. That's 1, 2, and 3. And this one is the one that's currently cranked. All right. I don't know if that makes sense to people, but that's what's currently going to happen. All right. Now, I have a double Mook. What do I want to be my Mook? You'll be my second Mook. And you're going to attack one of these dudes, and I'm going to get 2 life, back up to 6. You die, and you're going to attack one of these guys, and just that guy will die. Now I'll get another 2 life. I'm back to 8. May have turned the tide. Managed to make it through with the help of that extra hero. He's my hero. Do I want to be reckless? I might as well be reckless. I'm going to use the last mook to kill the last piper because that'll make him vulnerable potentially on the next turn. All right, that gets me 2 more life. I'm up to 10. We'll just use one of the spin downs now. All right, I don't think I'm going to get back up past 20, but I am at 10. All right, Xenagos, I think the party's about over here. We'll untap. What are you going to do to me? Ripped Pieces. Beginning combat this turn, each Reveler deals 1 damage to each player and each creature of those players' control. I don't think that's going to do too much to me, fortunately. Dance of Panic. As long as there are 5 more Revelers, it's the same as this one. If there are 5 or more Revelers, have haste and attack. Okay, I think I've got the game here. So here's what's going to happen. All right, we're going to untap. Have lots of mana now. This goes to the next crank. So now target creature I have, this creature fights another target creature for 2. That's that guy. And then I'll draw. It doesn't really matter because he's now big. He's a 3/3 soon to be 4/4 with the addition of me casting that non-creature spell. We're going to have him attack Xenagos Ascended. Xenagos himself is just a 2/1, and he dies. Then removing him from the battlefield, I actually managed to win this game. So, all right. It took 2 heroes instead of 1, and it took 1 less Reveler, but I was able to get there. As I said, I tested my deck out against Xenagos before filming this little session. I think I lost 3 or 4 times in a row with my initial setup before I decided it was time to modify things. So the Xenagos deck can be kind of swingy, but it is fun to play against, and you know, I enjoyed assembling this little deck and testing it out against him as well. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration of kind of a unique little format. I know with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles set coming out, there's nominally going to be more solo decks. So I think the ability to draft solo might appeal to some people. If you think this is worthwhile, spread the word. The Sylvion single draft Magic the Gathering solo variant, I think, is going to be a lot of fun in the days to come.